Happy New Year, everybody. This is probably not the first episode that's dropping, but it's the first one we're recording this year.
Absolutely. So Happy New Year to you, Stan.
Super excited. I don't know if I did strategic planning to the full extent I've wanted to. Had a great Christmas, bunch of time with my kids, played a lot of games. But I do feel as a business owner, I'm already in January, and I probably could have been a little more intentional. So I just want to put that out.
So you feel behind, and it's the first week of January.
That's right.
That's normal.
You'd be nicer to yourself.
If you feel that way, that I'm so behind. You have 360 days left in the year.
Yes.
So what are we going to talk about today, Stan?
So as I spend a lot of time with advisors, clients, what I'm finding myself is when I share a strategy or an idea, I'm recognizing my first idea is usually not always the best.
What?
I know. But what also, as I hear myself talk it out loud, I'm realizing that whether it's with a client or I'm with you and we're talking through something, that without putting a name to it, there's this process of iteration. So it put me down a little rabbit trail of researching like iteration and like the power of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is absolutely true. There's not even much debate that things will get better as you sit in it and iterate it. So for us, we built a resource. We like to keep things practical and simple. And we will link to this in the show notes where you can download it and use it yourself. But we call it Iterate to Elite. And imagine this in your head, if you're listening, a spectrum from 0 to 10, 0 being average. We reject everything below average, and 10 being elite. And the goal of this is to say, how can I develop a process to recognize my first idea or first inclination is probably not the best one to end with, but it's the start of something. When we coach
Iterate to Elite, I said?
Iterate to Elite.
Iterate to Elite, okay.
So when we take it or good to great, it's like, how do you take something good, which a lot of us settle for, but recognize that we don't want good, we want great things. And so together, and we'll share this with everybody listening, can we have something that's very practical that we keep handy? It's going to live on my desk. And if I think of something I want to do, whether it's a piece of content for advisors, whether it's a strategy for clients, I'm going to force myself to stop and use an iteration process, because I know now from doing it over and over again, version 5 is way better than version 1. Version 10 is light years ahead of version 2. And so how can we go into a new year with a process to not settle for average?
So if we know this, if you're listening and you agree with us, I agree with you, Stan. What happens? Do we stop with just the first idea and then it sucks? And so we stop, we go, oh, that's a bad idea. I mean, why don't we just naturally iterate to elite? Why don't we naturally do 5 versions of things until they become great? Why do so many people get an idea, do it, and then it doesn't work and they stop, or they get it that it works okay and then they stop? Well, what is it about humans? And advisors are driven people. If you're listening to this, you are into self-improvement because you're literally listening to this right now. I think that's who you are. Why do advisors not iterate to elite?
I think there's a few things that came to mind when you were thinking through that. One, the emotional cycle of change.
Yeah.
Meaning all change is challenging. And there's something about the creative process to where I think we all bail at some point if we don't have a process or if we don't have accountability. And I'm reminded constantly this last year about the book Art of War or War of Art. I always make those up. So War of Art, if you haven't read it, pick it up. You can also read The Art of War if you
no, don't do that. That's
want
bad
to
advice.
defeat your competition.
War of Art,
strategically, yeah.
Stephen Pressfield, great writer.
And the idea that resistance is present in all of our lives every day, all the time. And it was a breakthrough for me because I felt like there was this cloud. And if I did something, I'd be really excited and proud of myself for being resilient. And then there was times I didn't. And I'm like, I wonder why I did it there and not there. Now that I think about like every day I'm waking up and there's a force trying to get me to fail or stop short of my potential. It's now just the way my mind works, like more of a competitive way of framing it. They're like, I want to win that battle every day. When I sit down to create a podcast episode with you or write a book, rarely is it easy. Sometimes it's less challenging than others, but there's times where I'm like, right now, everything in my body is trying to stop me from doing this work. So now that I put a face to it and I'm like, that's resistance and it's trying to beat me.
Yeah.
When it comes to iterating, I think there's part of us that just likes busy work. So you can stay active with a bunch of bad ideas. And of course it won't work because it wasn't a great idea. And then you just come up with a new idea. And I've spent time in my career doing that. I think we also get defensive of our ideas.
What do you mean?
Like, we don't want to tell ourselves that an idea was bad. And so when we walk you through the spectrum, some of the guidelines we came up with for it, it'll make sense that if we can have a process with some rules that anticipate our head trash
Right.
or the forces acting against us, it'll take practice, and you'll still have to sit in some discomfort with it, but guaranteed every version you can get through will be better than the first.
Okay. I
What's
think
your thoughts, hesitation?
well, I think that the challenge is, and this is the sick cycle of resistance, is the resistance will tell you that that you're not like they'll tell you it didn't work because of you, not it didn't work because it rarely works the first time.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, who's picked up a basketball and shot it and been like, oh my gosh, I'm really good at 3-pointers? Like, no one, you know, and yet we get an idea, you know, the kind of people listening to this episode, your problem is not ideas. Your problem is implementing and iterating those ideas.
Yeah.
But the resistance will tell you, that was a dumb idea. Just quit. Instead of, no, this is hard. And the harder it is, actually, the more important the idea, the more of a pushback of, oh, this is because what we'll go do, and you talked about this today, we'll go do what we know. We'll go do what's comfortable. We'll go do what's average. We talk to people this at our events about what are you doing for leads? And mostly everybody's doing something for leads. A lot of them are spending a lot of money. And then we say, how's that working? No one has ever said, it's amazing. It's so great. But they just keep doing it. They just keep doing average stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I love in our events when we're doing this live and we help people iterate on the spot.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how at times there was these obstacles or these
It's
valleys.
so uncomfortable. It's so
Is it?
uncomfortable.
Not for
No,
me.
not for us. It's great for us. So people are like, oh, sure. Anyway.
It's happening to me right now. Yeah. In front of everybody.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That they've almost resigned to something.
Yeah.
Like, this is just the way it is. But with a process and us some accountability, we've gotten people through that in like 5 minutes. And the result from working up this spectrum, they're like, I can't believe I hadn't thought about that. And then you may feel some shame about like, wow, is that person smarter than me? Why did they come up with it? It's just because we sat in it a little bit longer than the discomfort of a quiet room with a whiteboard. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to sit in this as opposed to looking at my phone, answering emails to like escape the discomfort of it.
I got to revise that form, revise my intake form. Which
your fact finder needs to be.
I mean, if you dial in a fact finder, that's guaranteed $1 gazillion.
Right.
And
I websites are.
Yeah, and honestly, do your website, and then like LinkedIn profile again. Sorry, the sarcasm. I hope you can feel the sarcasm coming through your speakers and headphones right now. But it's these things we do because they're safe, because they're tangible, because it feels like we're doing something, and we are doing something. But unfortunately, it's the it's the hamster. I mean, it's a hamster on the wheel. It's like, I'm so busy right now. And you're like, you were going nowhere.
Yeah.
And we do that. And so having a process that explain this to me. So your vision is someone downloads this, and again, link in the show notes. They print it off. Go ahead.
If I was you, I'd laminate it. We love whiteboard markers. So whiteboard marker this thing and then wipe it off and keep reusing it.
Yeah.
And so here are the guidelines we came up with. So imagine this. It's going to be a simple gift. You download it. We'll put it in the show notes. Members of our community, we're going to send these to you. If you join us for coaching, yes, high ticket item. But what I love about it as we iterate stuff and we try things here a lot, like how can we help advisors, is I found some of the most practical, simple things can have the biggest impact.
Yes.
So my hope this year, and we coach you, we're going to coach you to this, is that you can become really good at recognizing you're probably never going to perfect this. Like, this tool you'll need forever because head trash always exists. Forces trying to tell you to settle for average will always exist. You just have to override them. So you have your average to elite spectrum, 0 to 10. Your first idea, so here are the guidelines we've come up with. Your first idea can never be higher than a 3. And part of that is us accepting, like, I need to get it out because it's never going to be the best one.
So you're saying is, your first idea, no matter how great you think it is probably a 3 at the most. It might be a 1.
That's right.
And that's okay. Again, that's not criticism. It's just saying like saying, why doesn't your baby run faster? It's because it's a baby, you weirdo. You know what I mean? You know, like it's new. You know what I mean? And so be okay with the idea that, oh, I've got this really cool idea. And maybe this is an encouragement. Like, even though you think it's a really cool idea, it's probably only a 3. Like, well, it's a really cool idea. Well, then keep growing that bad boy, because imagine that idea when it's at 10. I mean, there's things that we're working on right now,
Mhm.
probably 3 different projects because you come up with 78 ideas a day. God
I,
bless you, by
I've
the way. I
learned to keep
appreciate
some of
that.
them to myself.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You only share 10 a day with me. But we've got some projects we're working on right now. And I'm just like, man, this is going to be great. Like I'm super excited about this thing.
Mhm.
Like the new advisor program, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is awesome. And what's amazing is it's probably still a 3. Like it's on a 3 it's a 3.
And a three doesn't mean it can't help somebody.
No, no, no.
And so
Even
I
if
don't think
it's
it's a
good.
bad thing,
Yeah.
but it's probably good. And the enemy of great is good. And if we can adopt that, then if we can say, okay, our first idea, we're getting it out, we're putting it on a whiteboard, done. It can't be higher than a 3.
Okay, that's the first one.
Yep. The next one is that you need at least 4 versions beyond the first one. So we're shooting for a
Until
total
what?
of 5
Until it becomes
iterations
elite.
until it becomes GETMO,
Oh, okay.
which I love GETMO. GETMO is good enough to move on.
GETMO.
GTMO. And so you're trying to go for at least 5 before you say, okay, this is good enough. Because there's probably multiple balls as business owners we're juggling. And sometimes we have to say, hey, this plate's spinning good enough. My fact finder's good enough. My website's good enough. But my attention needs to go somewhere else.
Okay.
When I think of something as a 1 to a 10, I don't really want to spend 20 hours making an 8 and 9.
Yeah.
If I can make it 2 a 7. Like that would be a much more impact to my business.
Right.
So first idea is always at 3 or less. You need 5 versions total before your GETMO.
All right. So your first one and then 4 more iterations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then version 4 and 5 should require external input, meaning you're not in a room by yourself for the entire spectrum of it. So if you go from version 2 to version 3 to version 4 to version 7, as you get to version 4 and 5, as you iterate, and what's hard about this is at times you think like, that's all I got. Like I'm done. If you sit in the discomfort of that, and in that book, The War of Art, man, that's it.
I mix it up
Tongue twister.
50% of the time. So I'm glad I'm not.
So the War of Art is, they call it summoning the muse, meaning if you can sit in that discomfort long enough, ideas will come to you if you don't exit that discomfort.
Yeah.
And so version 4 and 5, you're going to get some type of external input. For our members, that's ask your coach. It's throw it on in the chat room for all our advisors.
Yeah, we're on a group call. Someone says, yeah, I have a question. Yeah.
Yep. And then suggested is that after version 5, you take a break for at least a day before you iterate any further.
Yeah.
So these are the guidelines we put around it. We'll keep refining this tool. My hope is, I would say, go download it, sit with it. It's simple, but what you will feel in your body when you sit with this tool and you say, let's work a few out. Let's say I want to be a better prospector this year. And you say, okay, my idea is going to be, I'm going to go try to meet more business owners. Okay. That's nice.
So let's do a version 1 of that is, where are the business owners? They're at the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, version 1 could be, I want to meet more business owners.
Okay. Cool.
Because a lot of advisors say, I want to get more clients.
What do you want? I want people who are breathing
with money that want to buy something right now.
That's right.
Okay. Well, now what? Version 2 of that, and we use targeting strategies, and we have a framework and a tool for all this. So we have to say, okay, let's decide, where do those business owners hang out? Well, I think business owners hang out with other business owners, but they're really busy people. So how do I get their attention? Well, I probably need something to get their attention. So version 2 to 3 is like, okay, what's my idea to get their attention? Well, business owners hate taxes. So I'm going to go research and find some idea partners like CPAs, attorneys, and say, I want to find specific ideas to find business owners. So business owners may be seeking me out.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, version 5, version 4, well, how am I going to present it in such a way that gets somebody's attention so they actually get my time?
Yeah.
And so every time we think through this thing, it's getting more refined and more specific and more practical.
Yeah.
And then I might get to version 7 and be like, great, I have a specific idea. I've put together a 1-pager that highlights the idea. Let's say it's cost segregation for real estate people. I have a quick bullet point idea of it. The first version of your handout's probably way too complicated with too many words on it. So you iterate that as well down to simple, really meaningful language. And you say, now, how am I going to get this in front of the business owners or the people that own real estate?
Right.
Where do they hang out?
When you bring in someone else, is that 4, 5, 6, 7-ish?
Yeah, I think after 5 is when you would say, 4 to 5 is when you say, okay, here's where I've gotten it so far. Right. This is what's tough if you feel like you're on an island in this business. There was times where I was the only advisor working just with myself. Now we have the community and we can put it out there. And it's really fun when you put something out to other advisors and they jump on it and it comes back better. Like the other people are helping you get better faster.
Yeah.
So I would say 4 or 5, you try to put it out to some people, get some feedback. Just almost check your own bias towards the idea. And then I would almost pause from there. And then as you get to version 6, 7, 8, 9, you're going to come back after you've taken a break and look at it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
So instead of getting in your own head and trying stuff too fast. Because I've learned the hard way that's also good for culture. If you share too many new ideas with the wrong people on your team, it freaks them out.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't freak me out anymore, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm good with it.
You've
I'm
become
good to know.
You've become callous to that.
No, but
the shielding of the ideas.
I will say this, and I want this to be an encouragement, not just Sten. Sten knows this, but for you who are listening or watching, if you're like, man, I just have so many ideas, don't think of that as a bad thing. Just have a place to put them, and then have a way of communicating with them that doesn't overwhelm the listener. And one of the things that you do a good job with this, Sten, is that you'll say, I'm going to share something. We don't have to do it now. I'm not saying drop everything and go do this, but let's talk about this idea. And the idea can be really transformative. It can be really like, wow, that sounds like a big project. Like, that's fine. I'm not saying go do this. I'm not saying do this on top of what you're already doing, but let's just talk about the idea on its own. Because when you give a space for it, then you go, okay, when do we want to try to do this? Do we want to take something off of our plate and put that back on to replace it? Or do we want to put it till later? Or do we want to get some more feedback? But what a lot of people do, those who are listening and watching, is you get an idea and you're like, I don't want to overwhelm people, so I'm just not going to tell them. Or you tell everyone every idea and they're like, he's just an idea person. That doesn't really do anything.
That's right.
And those are both bad. One, not sharing the idea, not good. The other, sharing all ideas, and people feel overwhelmed by it. So have the filter. But I will say the system we have set up between talking to other advisors or talking to a coach about it, one of the main things we do with our advisors in the Elite Advisor Network is just answer the question, what should you do next? I mean, it sounds like such a simple question, but it's of the 50 things you can do as an advisor, what are the next 3 things you should be focusing on in your business? And,
it'll have the biggest impact.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. It's usually not your website. I mean, and you mentioned earlier, Stan, you said it's like, it's what thing we go work on, right? Like you could do that.
It's usually not calling old dead leads. It's usually not, I promise you this, and I'm susceptible to it too. There's so many things we can put energy in that will not yield the result we want, but we can be very busy in a day. Yeah. Where sometimes the least busy days are the ones where we do the most good work, whether it's practicing this spectrum we're going to put up there for you guys, whether it's like, because when you practice this skill, version 2 through 4 will actually just happen in your brain quicker. Like your first version someday will not actually be a 3. I want to force you to think of it as a 3. But there's times now I'll be in a room and I'll say something and people are like, you could tell they hadn't got there yet. Yeah. But if you practice iteration and your mind says, hey, great thought, but how can you make it better? How can you make it better? How can you make it better? It will become easier over time. I will tell you now that force that is working against all of us is draped over me every day. When I sit down and I'm like, okay, Andy needs me to work on this thing, when I'm going to do this, and I still feel resistance. And so you will feel that, but when I sit and look at this tool, it forces me to work through that resistance multiple times. And again, perfection is not the goal. And I don't think we will ever all get to a 10 on this, but an 8 or 9 is pretty good, especially when we probably were going to stop at 4. And the frustrating thing is we don't even know it's a 4. We're just running with it.
Yeah.
So if in this year, all the energy you have to start this year, where you say, I'm going to accomplish things, I'm going to put all the energy I have, because we're limited people, towards things. My hope is that you can put that energy towards the best things, elite things, great things. And we stop settling for good, busy work, because the result of the same energy put in the focused direction is exponential. That's the book Essentialism.
Right.
Less distraction, more focus. And this tool helps us a lot with that.
I love it. I love the encouragement at the end you shared there, Sen, which is it's about using your energy towards the right thing. And again, Essentialism, great picture of that. Do you want to go, 2 feet in, 5 different directions, or do you want to go 10 feet in one direction? Right. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to feel like you've made progress. Yeah. I also love what you said there about some of our least busy days can be our most productive days, where it's not about just feeling busy. We've all left the office and been like, did I get anything done today? That's a horrible feeling. Like that's a problem. Yeah. So take Sten's advice and really focus and say, how can if the only thing I did today was get this to version 3, that's good. Yeah. Right. That's really, really, really good. And don't make 7 more version 1s of something. Get to version 3 or 4 or 5 of whatever it is you're working on. And if you need help doing that, that's why we're here. Yeah.
A big part of this is going to be, the last thing I'll say is the accountability of this tool. So know you're limited. You have biases in your head. You're going to come up with some good ideas. At some point, you need some external force to say, why did you do it that way? Why do you think that's best? What do you think about this thing? So download the tool, practice with it. If you're part of our community, ask your coach about it. But our goal is that you accomplish big things this year, bigger than you even can think of right now. But in order to do that well, it's not falling back into the same pattern. It's disrupting that and having tools to keep us out of it.
Thank you, Stan.
Thanks, brother.